Good morning, Malta and Gozo, and welcome to another episode of Lovin Daily. My name is JP, and I'm joined today by Jonathan Chia, and these are your 5 headlines for today. PBS ordered to pay ex-CEO John Bundy €226,500 in compensation. Andre Shimbri calls out football clubs after young player blocked from move abroad. Warrant issued for Dutch national linked to Melvin Thoma recordings and Dalligate. Dead animals at Manuel Islands, Duck Village raises alarm, and Maltese-American Pete Buttigieg makes history as first openly gay US cabinet member. John, you take it away?
You know, yesterday, a major story happening yesterday evening. Popular TV personality John Bundy, former CEO, has been given over €200,000 in compensation after an industrial tribunal ruled that he was fired unfairly. It's quite interesting when you actually look into the rulings. So the tribunal noted that yes, Bundy was fired unfairly. The board had unanimously decided to sack him before even concluding an investigation into, questions over why he should have been sacked. It's actually pretty interesting. So apparently Bundy had been fired on the spot. As a contracted employee, there should have been a procedure in place. There should have been certain disciplinary proceedings that had to happen before he was fired, but he was not. He was just fired on the spot. And now it's been ruled that he was fired unfairly. It's quite interesting, though. Bundy himself, while speaking to the tribunal about the sacking, he brought up the fact that prior to being sacked, he was asking some critical questions among PBS. He was asking things about, certain payments, how finances were being used for certain lunches at PBS. So about, looking into some financial wastage. So now that it's been ruled that he was fired unfairly, it's quite an interesting ruling. And the fact that he was compensated over €200,000, it's quite a large payout in Malta, considering. What do you think, JP?
Absolutely, yeah. Just to delve a bit more into what Bundy had allegedly brought up with regards to PBS expenditures. One was with regards to the Junior Eurovision contest, which Malta hosted in November 2016. According to Bundy, the EBU chairman informed him that Malta had agreed to fork out the participation cost of 6 other countries following an agreement by the PBS chairman, who was at the time Tonio Portuguese. Malta ended up footing the bill for about 4 other countries at a cost of €24,000 to the national broadcaster, according to Bundy. Another issue that he had brought up in his tribunal was the fact that PBS had spent a whopping €10,000 on lunches over a 2-year period. And there was also issues with meetings being held in various hotels around Malta when the PBS had its own boardroom and money being thrown out the window. So it's a bit, a lot of revelations in Bundy's tribunal there. Moving on to our second story of the day, Andre Shimbri, a renowned Maltese football player, has called out football clubs after a young player was blocked from moving abroad. Shimbri took to Facebook yesterday to express his opinion on the matter, saying it is a pity that many clubs hinder instead of help with the transfer of Maltese players to foreign clubs. Shimbri was making a reference to an issue with Seymour Wanderers player and Malta national defender Kurt Shaw, who was primed to move over to Wolfsberger FC, an Austrian club, who in 2 weeks' time would be facing Tottenham Hotspurs in the Europa League, but was denied opportunity by his club after a botched deal, basically. Basically, what happened was Wolfsberger offered, Lovin Malta was informed that Wolfsberger offered a substantial amount for Kurt Shaw to play with them. The deal consisted of him going to Wolfsberger on loan and then with the option to buy in summer. However, Seymour Wanderers rejected this deal, offered a counter-proposal which was of a hugely substantial amount, including $50,000 for him to just go on loan there in the first place. The club turned this offer down and they didn't hear back from them, and Shaw is now stuck playing for Seymour Wanderers instead of meeting Tottenham Hotspurs in the Europa League in 2 weeks' time. This obviously caused a lot of controversy and brought up a lot of issues with domestic clubs and how they treat their players and the sport in Malta and kind of limit local players' potentials to do better and to go abroad. Shimbri was one of the persons who was outspoken in this and saying that the Malta national team will never be good because a result of this, because we limit our own players. And in this case, it really shows how the personal interests of the club go above and beyond the career of a promising young football player. What do you think?
You know, it's really saddening. It's actually really saddening to hear that. And it actually goes further than that. Apart from all these issues, apparently some players have been complaining that they have not been paid for months. Some players have even said they haven't been paid for up to 10 months. There's even some rumors that foreign players don't have enough money to buy any food. So they've been left hungry because they have been left unpaid by the club. This is quite interesting. Sliema Wanderers is obviously a very popular club, a very prominent club. And this isn't the only time they've appeared in the news recently. If you remember back in December, there was a bit of a controversy after Adrian Delia, former PN leader Adrian Delia, had given €500,000 in a donation to Darthal Providenza from the Sliema Wanderers' main sponsor, Catco, a Tunisian-based company. Obviously, there was questions of whether the money needed to be vetted, whether the money had been there for money laundering purposes or whatnot. So, you know, Sliema Wanderers might have to look into a few of their issues going forward over the next few weeks and months. Moving on to the next story, another, you know, very problematic story going through the courts as we speak. Julian Hofstra, a Dutch national linked to alleged recordings of middleman turned state witness Melvin Telma. A warrant has now been issued for him to be brought to Malta, you know, to be questioned as part of this ongoing investigation and court case into the assassination of Daphne Caruana Galizia. So if you're not very aware, Julian Hofstra is a Dutch youth, who apparently has recordings of Melvin Telma speaking about the case, revealing some very, very important details related to Jorgen Fenech, his relation to Jorgen Fenech, and the whole assassination and the planning of it. Hofstra is currently in a Dutch prison. He's in Amsterdam, in a prison in Amsterdam, over charges related to an affiliate marketing scam. So he's got a bit of a history, but now a warrant has been issued for him to be brought to Malta. So it will be very interesting to see if he is brought here.
Yeah, absolutely. Meanwhile, Lovin Malta did reveal that the police are exploring Hofstra's link to former EU Commissioner John Dalli and his former aide Silvio Zammit. Well-informed sources have told Lovin Malta that Hofstra's connection to Zammit and Dalli could relate to an investigation in an alleged €60 million bribe offered from a Swedish tobacco snus company linked to the two men. Moving on to our fourth story of the day, quite a shocking story. Dead animals at Manuel Island's duck village has raised alarm among animal activists. A few weeks ago, activists had entered the premises only to discover dead geese, sickly rabbits and ducklings. Photos were sent to Lovin Malta showing the state of the village, which appears at the time run down and severely neglected. In the photos you can see the unhygienic conditions of the village, which once was quite a thriving place, quite a popular place and tourist destination. The activists went in to save some of these animals, the ones that they had rescued. Unfortunately, the majority of them died overnight due to various illnesses and whatnot. Rabbits, ducklings, both died. And this has raised alarm among animal activists about the well-being of the duck village and whether it's being kept up to a good enough standard to accommodate animals anymore. You know, the duck village, as everyone knows, is currently being taken care of by a pensioner from Zira in that area. And for the longest time, it was considered to be a nice, thriving place and a tourist destination. But clearly, it seems that over the past few months, it has gone south. And one of the reasons that an activist told Lovin Malta was actually during the pandemic, he had to take over and take care of the village because the pensioner, obviously, given that the pandemic was going on, couldn't take care of it himself. But you know, since then, it has really declined and. A lot of people are questioning whether this actually should still be there and whether the animals should be removed and taken care of elsewhere.
You know, Duck Village is, you know, somewhere that lots of people love to visit. Every time I go to Gzira or Sliema, the promenade, I love to pass by. especially when I was younger. But that said, it has fallen to disarray over the last few months, that's for sure. It's a bit sad because, obviously in St. Julian's, you've got Cat Village as well, which is under threat. And it's important to note that in 18 months, we might actually lose Duck Village in its totality, as the MIDI project on Manuel Island, the luxurious MIDI project on Manuel Island, should be taking over that land. So we might actually lose the Duck Village. So I don't know if this is the last breath or the last quack of the Duck Village, as it were. But yeah, in 18 months, it might not even be there anymore. Moving on to the final story for today. The mayor of South Bend, Indiana, Mayor Pete, a Maltese-American man doing it very, very big, has officially become the transportation secretary in new U.S. President Joe Biden's, cabinet. This makes him the first openly gay cabinet member ever in American history. So that's actually really, really cool that a Maltese-American is in that position and doing such an iconic and historic role. He's the 5th member of Biden's cabinet to be confirmed and the 19th ever transportation secretary for the U.S. It's important to remember that last year, seems like such a long time ago now, Buttigieg was actually running against Joe Biden to become the president himself in the 2020 Democratic presidential primary. However, he eventually dropped out and he joined Biden's team and offered his support to him to take over Donald Trump's role. He took to social media, Buttigieg, and he only had a few short comments, but he said, quote, "I'm honored and humbled by today's vote in the Senate and ready to get to work at the U.S. Department of Transportation." So really, really good to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. And this doesn't seem to be the end of the road for Buttigieg, who with a lot of media houses touting him to actually run again for the presidential election in the future. And what is being discussed really is the fact that Buttigieg, when he first ran, didn't have much federal experience, but now that he's in the cabinet and he's got the transportation secretary role, he'll manage to get some federal government experience under his belt, and he'll be better primed for the presidential election next time it comes around. So we might eventually see a Maltese-American U.S. president. We'll just have to wait and see how that pans out. With that being said, this brings us to the end of this episode. From John and myself, have a day full of lovin'.